this video is the start point or front end to a series of videos which I recorded in 2011. We had a vast array of microphones to try out, lots of different varieties, small diaphragm, large diaphragm condensers, ribbon microphones, valve microphones, USB microphones which are the audio interface and the microphone all in one, and various portable audio recorders as well as dynamic microphones. So all of those get tested. I do a couple of different types of playing for each microphone, so you get to hear how it sounds if you're just strumming, or if you're doing short stabs or tapping or percussive work or finger picking. And then all of the microphones can be compared backwards and forwards. Now all of these videos have been uploaded to my extras channel to save clogging this channel up with literally dozens and dozens and dozens of videos. I've chosen to upload all of these as separate videos so that you can listen to them all individually in your own time, because each video is a couple of minutes long. Stringing them all together would make it rather difficult to imbibe, although I am going to put up a version where I compare different microphone setups backwards and forwards so you can hear the difference, and I'll be using a constant microphone which is more than likely going to be the Neumann TLM 103, because that's one I've used an awful lot on my recordings before and I'm pretty familiar with that sound, so we can compare everything back to the sound of that microphone and see how it changes, and that way you get some concept of what the different microphone types and what the different makes even are going to sound like, which is going to better inform you when you come to do some recording yourself. That's not the only variable. There are tons of things that you can do before the sound even hits the microphone to actually alter the sound. Your playing technique, whether you're using your fingernails or a plectrum or your bare fingertips, if you're strumming, if you're using a thumb pick, if you're tapping on the neck, if you're doing percussive work, all of these things are going to affect how the instrument sounds. Not forgetting, of course, the instrument itself. You can use different body shapes of guitar, different construction types, different bracing varieties, different flavours of wood. So you can have cedar, you can have spruce, you can have mahogany, you can have rosewood, and all of these different kinds of wood and building methods are going to affect how the instrument sounds. The body size, if you've got a very big body, it's going to perhaps project a little bit more bass. A small body might have less bass and be a bit more pronounced in the top end. So there's lots of different things that you can consider before you hit the microphone. The room that you record in is going to have a huge effect on the sound. If you're recording in a big hall, as we were during these tests, then you will get some of the hall sound if you mic anything but extremely closely. So if you're a foot away like we were, there will be an opportunity for the room sound to play a role in the sound that you hear. Now in a room that size, you need to play quite loud to actually excite the reverberations in the room. If you play quietly, then it's really not going to pick those up so well, because the sound has to bounce around, it has to get back to the microphone, and yeah, basically it will decay a lot before it actually does that. In all the tests, I was using my Avalon L25, I think it's an L25, and that's got a cedar top on. It's a pretty big guitar as guitars go, and it's featured in a lot of my videos before, so you're probably relatively familiar with the sound of that guitar. Later on in this series, I'm going to test out some other guitars where I will actually do the reverse. I'll keep the microphone the same and swap out for different guitars so you can hear what different body shapes, construction types will sound like. And if you're working with a band or you're working with a group, choosing the right guitar is pretty much as important as choosing the right microphone. Obviously you've got to be comfortable to play it, but it's going to play a role in how it sits in the mix with the other instruments, which is quite an interesting thing. We won't really be getting into other instruments that much, but it's always worth bearing in mind the broader context that you're going to be using this in. If you've got a really rich, full guitar sound, it might actually start to conflict with some of the other sounds, vocal lines, other guitar lines, if they're someone doing a solo or something and you have to be taking up all of the space in the same area sonically, then it can sound muddy and like it's lacking focus. So all of that you've got to consider. In all the tests, I was using the guitar about 1 foot away from the microphone, pointing at the 12th fret neck joint. It's a very standard position and one that you can easily replicate yourself. Just put the microphone roughly a foot away, point it at the neck joint, roughly level with where the neck joint is as well, rather than up here or down there. There are tons of other positions. We could have spent all day just with one microphone trying different positions, and indeed I did some sweep tests where I got my assistant to actually sweep the microphone along in front of the guitar as I was playing, so you get to hear what all of those different positions can potentially sound like. That's a fantastic way of setting up if you have someone else to help you with this. Ideally you need 2 people. One of them sits in a control room, preferably with some nice monitors, so they can listen to the sound coming through the microphone in a clean environment. Headphones will work in a pinch, and then the assistant will run the microphone in front of the guitar, and you choose the point at which it sounds best, or whether it be a very rich, full sound you're looking for, or a slightly thinner, more cutting sound to make it through in the mix. It really does have an effect on the tone as well, so you've really got to think about this and make sure that you position the microphone correctly for your guitar and for the microphone type. Certain kinds of microphone will give you a proximity boost. A cardioid large diaphragm condenser microphone will give you a proximity boost whereby the bass will actually sound a little bit fuller and a little bit richer the closer the mic gets to the guitar. And that's not the case when you use something like an omnidirectional mic, which you can get very close to the guitar and still get a flat response, which in some ways is very nice. You can get a really clean flat sound close up, which is a good way of eliminating room sound somewhat if you're using an omni, because you can get closer. If you're further away with an omnidirectional mic, obviously you pick up sound from all around the microphone, so it's more likely to pick up the reverberations that are naturally happening in the room anyway, whereas a cardioid, of course, will reject those. There are 3 cameras recording all the time. You can see how far away I am in all aspects. There's one above me, there's one to the side, and there's one in front. And I've also got a little bit of information about each microphone running in the video as well. It shows a pickup pattern for the microphone, although that won't actually be accurate really to that microphone. It just shows what type of pickup it uses. So, for example, microphones have their own charts because they don't always pick up perfectly in a cardioid shape. There's frequency drop-off at certain frequencies in certain places, and yeah, you'd have to refer to the manufacturer's charts to see that, but it'll give you a rough idea, and instantly you can look at it and think, oh, that's cardioid, that's figure 8, that's omnidirectional, that's stereo, whatever it happens to be. I hope this videos will be informative, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them below. I'm going to be adding these videos gradually because it's going to take quite a while to put them all together. I've got them all cut together, but I have to upload them, and yeah, there's basically an hour's worth of footage to edit, and that's 3 streams of HD video which need to be combined into one and then color corrected, and yeah, all of the overlays and text put in as well, and title cards and everything. So hopefully I'm going to be uploading them a couple a week maybe for the next few weeks, and then gradually adding more videos about how you actually go about recording with more complicated microphone setups where you would use more than one microphone, albeit in this video we do have some examples of that because some of the microphones and some of the audio recorders had the ability to record in stereo, so those are in stereo, but all of the other examples were just single microphones placed in front of the guitar, so although you hear it through both speakers, it's not a stereo sound, and more often than not if you're recording a solo guitar, you actually would aim to get a stereo sound because it gives you perhaps a more interesting sonic landscape. You can spread the sound over the speakers a bit rather than just having everything coming straight at you. It might not be 100% accurate or true, but it can certainly give a more interesting sound, and it's something to consider. But again, it's more complicated, requires more microphones, requires more audio interfaces, and requires a little bit more consideration when you come to mix it down. You have to really think when you set them up about how they're going to interact together. You don't want them basically cancelling each other out by poor positioning, which is totally possible.